Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The first MLB Power Rankings are out from ESPN. Are the Phillies too high, too low, just right? I'll tell you what I think coming up. Plus, upset alert in our final four in the top 8 moments Phillies bracket, and not an upset and off the pole, a blowout win in this week's question. All of that on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. This is Locked On Phillies. I am your host, Connor Thomas. I've been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic. Now happy to be with you here as your host of Locked On Phillies. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now, the first thing we're getting into today, like I said in the open, we have the first power rankings from ESPN for the 2022 MLB season. They listed as their season preview. And what they did here, they did a couple things. They put out a scenario of if everything goes right, a weakness that could stop each of these teams, the most likely award winner in 2022, and they called it realistic, and one realistic bold prediction for each of the teams. I don't know how much stock you put into power rankings. You have to take it with a grain of salt because certain things look a certain way on paper, and then they don't play out over the course of a regular season like that. We see it all the time where teams that aren't projected to win just go ahead and flat out demolish teams sometimes. It's baseball. It's very hard to predict. So I'm not saying this is absolutely like letter of the law when we look at the power rankings, but I do like to take a look because it's fun to see the national perspective on the Phillies, where they rank, where the experts have them, and if what these experts, these national reporters, the guys who put this list together for ESPN, if they think anything differently than how we've preconceived the Phillies to be. So first of all, let's take a look at where the Philadelphia Phillies rank in these power rankings. I already ran through it today, but for your sake, I'm going to go through top to bottom until we get to the Phillies and just rank the teams. 1, obviously, Los Angeles Dodgers. Simple enough. Toronto Blue Jays at 2. No argument there. Atlanta Braves at 3. The best team in the NL East. I think that's a defending World Series champion bump. I think that's a little high for them, but I can't dispute it. They won the World Series last year. The Chicago White Sox in 4. Solid up-and-coming team. The Astros in 5. They're always competitive. The Yankees in 6 might be a little bit high, but they've had a solid offseason, and they're getting Aaron Judge back healthy. A lot of stuff interesting with that team. The Brewers in 7. Probably going to win the Central, and I like that there with them at 7. The Mets in 8. So there's 2 NL East teams in the top 10, followed by the Tampa Bay Rays at 9. The San Francisco Giants at 10, which I think they'll drop off a little bit. They had a kind of miracle season in 2021. The Red Sox in 11, which I think is a little bit low. The Padres in 12, also low, I think. Once they get Tatis Jr. back, they're going to be good. But that still is a solid team, even without him. And then in 13, lucky number 13, the floor that skipped in every hotel across the nation, your Philadelphia Phillies at 13. So let's go ahead and jump into this. First of all, their projected record. Do you guys remember what I told you when we said the win total was 86.5 for this Phillies team? And I said take the over. They're probably an 89 or 90 win team. Well, projected record here according to ESPN, 89-73, right about on that number I gave you. And a 67% chance to make the playoffs. That's eye-raising because when we went through our odds from our friends over at BetOnline, they had them more likely to miss the playoffs than make it. Well, ESPN feels that they're more likely to make the playoffs than miss it. A 67% chance that 10-year playoff drought ends in 2022. So let's read you really quick if everything goes right. See what they said here. The Phils set a modern franchise record for runs scored with Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, and Kyle Schwarber combining for 115 home runs. Wouldn't that be awesome? Luckily, the pitching is better than that 1930 team. I got to confess, I don't know anything really about that 1930 team, but apparently they scored 944 runs and lost 102 games, which how in the world do you do that? That's crazy. But hopefully Zach Wheeler's fine after his shoulder issue in spring training. Aaron Nola pitches more towards his 2021 FIP, his fielding independent pitching, which would have been a 3.37. And basically what that is that calculates what your ERA would have been with better fielding. That's the most layman's terms I could put it into. His ERA was actually 4.63 in 2022. And Ranger Suarez, even if his ERA doubles, he would still have a 2.72 compared to his 1.36 from last year. They're also saying if everything goes right, Corey Knebel locks down the ninth inning. The defense is merely meh rather than all-time awful. And the Phillies edge past the Braves and the Mets for their first NL East title. So they do think it's a possibility that the Phillies can win the East. That's something that we talked about. How realistic is that? I agree with a lot of what they're saying for the best case scenario, but that's the best case scenario. It's easy to look at pie in the sky and say, okay, well, yeah, everyone hits 40 home runs if everything goes right, and everyone plays up to their high level. And we know that it's rare for every single thing to go right. Actually, it's nearly impossible for every single thing to go right for a team, not just the Phillies, but a team in general. Now let's take a look at the weakness that could stop them. The next thing they'd have down here, it says here on ESPN, the defense, as has been widely written, is a potential Achilles heel for a lineup that should be above average offensively. So Schwarber and Castellanos, they're saying, likely sharing the duty in left field. We know that. Seems to be little hope for the Phillies to be plus defensively there because neither of those guys are very good defensively. But the infield could be better than expected if Bryson Stott comes up. I also mentioned here that Stott may not be as a shortstop that he comes up. It probably will be third base because Didi Gregorius, that is, has spent all of his time at shortstop, and it seems like the Phils are comfortable going into the season with him. So that's basically what they say. The weakness is what we know already. It's the defense. That defensive Achilles heel, as ESPN calls it here, is something we're very well aware of, which is kind of nice. There's no monster lurking back there that we don't know about. The deficiencies of this team are pretty well known. It's understood, and you head into the 2022 season. At least if you're going to have problems, I guess it's good to be aware of them. And the ESPN Power Rankings agree that the problem rests on the defensive side of the baseball diamond for the Philadelphia Phillies. Let's go down to most likely 2022 award winner. They say, it'd be easy to go with Harper for who's the reigning NL MVP, but they picked Zach Wheeler, who finished second in NL Cy Young Award voting. Posted a 2.78 ERA last year, led the NL in innings and strikeouts, but Wheeler has operated at a similar level for a while. So they're thinking that was maybe somewhat of a breakout season, but something that he seems poised to repeat based on how consistent he's been with solid performance over the past couple of years. So basically they list since 2018, only 3 pitchers have compiled more F4 than him. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Garrett Cole. That's pretty good company to be in. So I like their pick there. I prefer Harper. I think Harper's probably the better option to repeat, but because of the protection that he has. Wheeler now is very clearly the ace of the staff for the entirety of the year, and he's also got to be healthy. He's coming off a little bit of shoulder issues and that flu that set him back. So we'll see on that. I kind of disagree with them there. And here's their bold prediction. Harper, Castellanos, and Schwarber each hit 40 home runs, making them the 4th team in MLB history with 3 players to do that. They list the 1973 Braves, 96 Rockies, and 97 Rockies. Rockies did it in back-to-back years out there in Colorado with that thin air as the other teams to do it. I would love that. I don't think they're all going to hit 40, but, I mean, they're going to all hit 33 plus, I want to say. They could all hit over 35. Those extra 5 are going to be hard to come by, but it's not the craziest prediction in the world ever. So that's where it is. The Phillies go ahead and finish out at 13 in the power rankings. Let's just see where the other NL East teams come in, the Marlins and the Nationals. The Marlins are down at 19, so 6 spots behind the Phillies. A solid enough gap that should keep them in 4th place. And the Nationals, 24th. They're not in the basement. They've got a couple teams below them who are totally not trying. They've got them projecting at about 69, 70 wins, but only 3% chance to make the playoffs. So even though the Nationals aren't total dreck, seems like they're not in the same league as these other teams in the NL East. So again, just the power rankings, but that's what ESPN is feeling as we get our season preview from them, the national experts, on what they're thinking for the NL East, for the Phillies, and where they're ranking them right now. Listen, top 13 team in baseball. If it stacks out evenly between the NL and AL, meaning like, top 12 teams, 6 are in the AL, 6 are in the NL, the Phillies got a shot to make it in. So that's all you can really ask for when you're looking at a team that has missed the playoffs for 10 years. And they got a good chance this year, and the ESPN Power Rankings seem to back that up. Now, coming up next, I'm going to tell you about, I thought there was going to be an upset possible in the Final Four. Did the Roy Halladay no-hitter pull it off? I'll tell you the results in just a second. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and sports info. So I want you to find all the latest sports developments. You can get this week's Masters Championship odds. That's right, it's Masters Week. Podcasts and reviews for all the different leagues this season, everything, because BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. They got everything. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online, where the game starts. So we had a great matchup in the first game of our Final Four. Of course, it's going to be a great matchup. These are the top four, as suggested and voted by you, moments in Philadelphia Phillies history. So our one seed overall in the tournament, the World Series in 1980, took on Roy Halladay's playoff no-hitter against the Cincinnati Reds in 2010. An amazing moment, probably the seminal moment. You could argue it's the perfect game against the Marlins that same season, but having it be the playoffs and having it be at Citizens Bank Park with the fans going crazy as opposed to that perfect game, which was on the road, it was just an incredible moment for Roy Halladay. And of course, we know what the World Series in 1980 was and how special that is. Just when you win it all, it's super special. And I thought maybe the recency bias with Roy Halladay, him being a more recent player than 1980, and Twitter being a younger contingent of people, a younger demographic, I thought, hey, Halladay might have a chance to pull this off. He's my all-time favorite Philly, my number one favorite baseball player of all time. So I was rooting for him. I gave him a vote, but unfortunately, it came up just short. He gave it a good run, though. A World Series should run away with moments, but that only garnered 55% of the vote. Roy Halladay's no-hitter got 45%. So really only lost by 10% there, was 5%, 5 percentage points rather, either way, from completely tying that one up. But that's it. Our first game of the Final Four is done. And World Series in 1980, the one seed, we're going chalk, advances to the championship. Now today, I'm going to put up the second Final Four matchup, which again, when you look at our bracket, it's going to be the 2 seed, the 2008 World Series against the 6 seed, the Shane Victorino Grand Slam from against the Milwaukee Brewers and CC Sabathia in that 2008 World Series run. So what's bigger, the Grand Slam that kind of set the tone at the beginning of the run, or actually winning the World Series at the end? I have a feeling this one's going to be chalk as well, but who knows? You guys have surprised me before with your voting on Twitter. You can make reality whatever you want it to make on this poll because I'm leaving the option up to you. So go ahead and check that out at LO_Phillies on Twitter. I'll be posting that right after this episode comes out. And you can go ahead and set your votes to help us get that championship game squared away. And the championship will run for a couple days, being revealed the day before opening day. So that'll be Wednesday afternoon. We'll have our championship winner revealed. So all of that will be great. We're coming down on the home stretch there. But that's where we stand in the top 8 moments in Philadelphia Phillies history bracket. I like Roy Halladay. That's an understatement. I love Roy Halladay. But you got to understand a World Series win knocking him off. So what are you going to do? Roy with a valiant run there, though, with that moment. So I know I'm swinging something on you that I didn't really tell you about. We're going to look at the Phillies game against the Yankees today because that just went final as I'm recording this. They were finishing up, so I figured I'd jump on and get on the episode a little bit early. But now we've got some final numbers, and let's go ahead and look at some young prospects that actually played pretty well again today. And before I do that, I want to thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. But I also want you to check out Locked On MLB Prospects. We're talking about prospects right now. That's because Lindsey Crosby, the host of MLB Prospects, is awesome. He's a prospect encyclopedia, and he's doing a deep dive on the stars of tomorrow. He knows all these guys, knows them in and out across the MLB. So if you want to know who could the Phillies trade for potentially, who are some of their future draft picks, if you want to hear about high school and college guys, he knows them as well. Draft profiles, he knows it all. Go check out Locked On MLB Prospects. With my pal Lindsey Crosby does an amazing job. So let's talk about some folks, not really prospects anymore because they're going to be playing for the Phillies at some point this year at the major league level. Some of them already had, but a little bit of a quiet day at the ballpark for the Phils down there in Clearwater. The eyes are already turned to opening day on Friday. So these are the days where you kind of get the lackadaisical performance, not as exciting play because most of the starters are resting and gearing up for the regular season. They lost to the Yankees 2-5. Let's go ahead and look who did anything. Kyle Gibson threw 5 innings, gave up 9 hits. Not very encouraging there, but only 2 earned runs. You'll take that. He was hit around a little bit, but he kept guys from scoring relatively. Did give up 1 home run. So I don't really hate that. I'm not looking into that too much. Corey Knebel got some action. Seranthony Dominguez got some more action. He got roughed up a little bit, had 3 earned runs in the game. So don't love that from Seranthony as he gets ready. But, of course, he's still working his way back from years of injury. So got a little leeway there. The important thing is the hitting, though. So Matt Vierling out there in center field. He started in center. He went 1-for-2. Had an RBI on the day. It's not bad. Just keep hitting. A couple guys went over, like Gene Segura went over. Alec Bohm went 1-for-4. That's not going to do him a lot of favors as he tries to hang on for dear life to that third base position. Didi Gregorius over. But here's what I'm looking at. Mickey Moniak, a 2-for-3 day. The dude just won't stop hitting. He's on an all-time spring training heater right now. He's now batting .344 in the spring. He's doing great down there. And Ronald Torreyes went 2-for-3, making himself look like another great utility option for 2022, just like he was in 2021 in case injuries happen. So Torreyes making third base interesting. He's another option that should make Bohm a little nervous, but Mickey Moniak, we'll talk about him coming up in this next segment. He continues his push to start in center field on opening day. Good for him. The kid just keeps hitting. It would be really hard to keep him out of center field and out of the Phillies lineup come Friday against the Oakland Athletics. Finally, in our last segment, I'm going to tell you about our Off the Pole segment, which, it contains Mickey Moniak and Matt Vierling and who should start in center field on opening day. And listen, I've got to make an apology again because I've been completely wrong for a while. I'll tell you why in just a second. I got to tell you about Built Bar, though. I'm still in my gym clothes, my gym hat, and what I do to help me out, get that extra little boost, I got to try that Built Bar. I don't really do the puffs because I'm not a marshmallow guy, but if I was, there'd be no better treat in the world for you if you're trying to get that protein. It's protein-infused marshmallow. You ever heard of that before? No, because no one else does it. Puffs are amazing, and some of their flavors are so good. Plus 100% real chocolate added on there. That's so good. You add that to flavors like yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. Man, that sounds good. If I like marshmallows, I'm telling you, I wouldn't stop eating those things. But I could get away with that because they're low calorie, high in protein. And they've got the regular bars as well, which are my favorite. Only 130 calories, and you get 17 grams of protein. When you compare that to a candy bar, it's no contest. That's because at Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. So I want you to go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, so it's time to jump into the second part of our Off the Poll segment. For those of you who are unaware, Off the Poll is when we ask a poll question on the weekend, or going into the weekend rather, that we respond to on Monday. So every Friday I set the Off the Poll segment. I tell you what the poll is going to be, and I post it on our Twitter account at LO_Phillies, and I always retweet it from @ConnorThomas975, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on my graphic right down there. Give both those accounts a follow so that you can go ahead and let your voice be heard when we do the Off the Poll segment. But it's not just me reading the numbers. I also react because I'm putting out something that I want the fan base's opinion on. And you, as a member of the fan base, I want you to let me know what you think. This is your chance to have your voice heard on Locked On Phillies in a way through a Twitter poll, and I give you my opinion, whether or not you're right, you're wrong. I'm not really sure. You're making me question myself. And I just I owe everybody another apology. Well, I guess not everybody. I owe one man another apology. Mickey Moniak just continues to prove me wrong. And I've been a big Mickey Moniak doubter. I said originally, I don't want to see him in center field. I want Matt Vierling to have that fast track, and I think he's the right option for center. And then Mickey Moniak has just turned into the next coming of Mickey Mantle, apparently. He's unbelievable. He's putting together great at-bats. And the question for Off the Poll this week, who should start in center field on opening day? Well, he won that one as well. He got 83% of the vote. Matt Vierling only got 17%. So it shows where you stand on the center field situation, Mickey Moniak is the fan favorite to start out there in center on opening day. And I think he's got to be the favorite of the organization at this point. It's got to be a little bit painful for Matt Vierling, who Joe Girardi said a week or two ago he has the inside track to being the starter at that position. But I don't know how you sit Moniak after what he's done in spring training. He's a former number 1 overall pick who's finally playing up to his expectations, at least in spring ball. And you've got to give him a chance to get a real look at center field with Odubel Herrera out for a couple weeks with an oblique strain. So my apologies to Moniak, but I completely agree with you guys on this off the poll question this week. I don't think there's any way that Moniak doesn't start in center field on opening day, and deservedly so. So you guys see it. You got to imagine Joe Girardi sees it, Dave Dombrowski sees it, John Middleton sees it. If you watch Phillies baseball this spring, honestly, the top story of spring training this year is Mickey Moniak, his progression, and what he's been doing down there in Clearwater. So, deservedly so, the kid will go ahead and I'd imagine he'll be out there playing in the middle of the outfield of Citizens Bank Park, right in front of those bullpens and the shrubbery and the batter's eye out there in front of Ashburn Alley on opening day. Cannot wait to see what he does. And if he continues to hit like this Phillies lineup only gets even more dangerous. That's the best part. Like, you're going to go ahead and probably bat him in the 8 or 9 hole, depending on what happens at third base. It'll probably be him and either Alec Boehm or Bryson Stott or Johan Camargo, whoever gets that third base nod on opening day down at the bottom of the lineup. You could do a lot worse batting-wise than one of your top prospects, also a number 1 overall pick, and then if it's Boehm, and NL Rookie of the Year, I believe he was a runner-up, but in that conversation in 2020, man, the Phillies lineup is stacked. If any of these guys can learn how to play defense, they'd be unbeatable. Unfortunately, like we talked about in the power ranking segment, that is their Achilles heel. But this team looks really good, and Mickey Moniak's coming out party in spring training, at least, is just another part that makes me feel so much more comfortable about the 2022 season and how exciting it's going to be a Philadelphia Phillies fan for this. Well, that's all I've got for you today, and it draws us another episode closer to opening day. But I do have to give you a little bit of a programming note for Locked On Phillies. Tomorrow's episode, I'm going to post our Final Four poll, but that will not be on tomorrow's episode because that NL East roundtable I've been telling you about, that'll be posted in full tomorrow on podcasts, on YouTube, where me and the guys from Locked On Marlins, Locked On Nationals, Locked On Mets, and Locked On Braves all sat down and talked about a preview for the NL East. To get you all primed up for opening day, you get to hear about their opinions of the Phillies, their opinions of the division, how I go back and forth with them. And come on, I'm a Philly guy. I'm not going to let someone from like Miami or Washington, especially not New York or Atlanta, argue me off the Phillies being great. There are concessions I had to make where we talked about the defense and we talked about the bullpen, but you can hear how we all interact and react to what the offseason has held for each of our teams. Going to be a great episode, a nice one to get you all squared away for some exciting NL East baseball coming up this year. So that will be tomorrow's edition of Locked On Phillies, a little bit of a different one, but a very informative and entertaining one with the rest of the hosts in the NL East. So that is what we've got. And because I've already recorded that one, I won't say I'll talk to you tomorrow, but I will talk to you all on Wednesday. But before I forget, I want to thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I also want to urge you to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, we call him Sully. He knows the MLB inside and out, the past, the present. He might even know the future. Who knows? Sully is like a wizard when it comes to baseball and baseball knowledge. He's got everything you could ever want to know about baseball if you're a baseball nut like me. So go ahead and check out Locked On MLB. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you're making your Locked On Phillies experience the best it can be by following on Twitter, liking and reviewing and rating on YouTube and podcasting, and subscribing to the YouTube. Because we've got coming up at 150 subscribers, we're almost there. I'm going to go ahead and post our crossover with Lindsey Crosby, Locked On MLB Prospects, about one of the Phillies' young relievers, Hans Krause, who we saw a little bit last year, who actually played college baseball played in the minors with a college baseball teammate of mine, So I had a little bit of inside information there. That at 150 subscribers. So make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel so you can get that bonus content we talked about. Now, for real, I'm done for the day, and I will talk to you all on Wednesday.